Andre. This is the Economic Development Team -1.
Hello.
Say your name, first name, please.
Oh, I'm Mara.
We have to verify with each other.
I'm Michelle.
Michelle. And one of our members is, they're feeling it right now. We're trying to bring them back. So they're going through a little health challenge. So we always send our prayers out. We are encouraged, delighted, and excited to come to you on another episode of this show. We want to provide content that is useful, encouraging, sharpens you, challenges you, causes you to laugh. You're taking your lunch break and you're a business owner, but then you might have this full-time job and you're trying to fully turn that part-time company into a full-time ordeal. Hey, let this be your boost and your injection. Or you might already be established and you have the time and you're taking the time and you're watching the replay of this. You might be busy in your running your business and operating your business. We want to give principles that really move you forward. So today's conversation, before we get started, we had a little talk before the camera came on, and we were talking about comfort foods when we have overcast, rainy days. That's what it is here where we're at. We don't know where you're at watching from. You could be watching in a different nation. We don't know what your weather is, another city. But currently we're in the Pacific Northwest, and we have a lot of overcast, rainy days where it's just blah sometimes. But what's the comfort food? What's your go-to? Who wants to start? A couple of your go-tos.
I do gumbo.
Okay.
Any roux and rice gets me right.
Okay.
What about you, Michelle?
Man, I'm just going through. I've been waiting for this season for all that yummy food to eat. I really enjoy pho on like a cold day, especially like a weekend. Just, I don't know.
People that move away from here miss pho.
Yeah.
Oh,
For people
it's
who
not
even
around?
visit here, it's just not as good other
Not equal.
places. They also don't have the delicious donut. I don't know if y'all have ate that donut with your pho.
Donut.
Yes, the Chinese donut.
Oh, no.
You gotta order the donut and
Sit
dip
down.
it in the. Oh, it's so good.
Okay.
The delicious donut and pho. So contrasting, she's mixing sweet and savory.
Like, that's what I might have to go get after this.
Wow. See, pho, I've had mixed experiences with it. So pho has been good at times because I had a really picky palate because of just a lot of challenges. But when I did get hip, there was a place that was east, I heard, because I looked up, I was like, oh, my doc said I could have, if I do eat beef, it's 2 times a week, it's supposed to be grass-fed. I know those of you in foreign countries are like, you guys are doing too much,
Everything should be grass-fed.
Yeah, but I found a place called and you ain't sponsoring us yet, but I'll just say your name anyway. It's Pho Mignon, and so they have filet mignon as the steak cut that's in your pho.
Ooh.
And I was crushing that.
Oh, that's fancy.
But the only thing is, since I'm allergic to chicken, I don't know if the broth was chicken because it was kind of tearing me up. But I love the taste of that.
Yes, it's all in the
vegetables and the thing. I said, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Right
So
on.
that was the spot. So other spots are. I've had really good, and then I don't think it should ever. If you try to get it to the house, that's just not a good move.
No,
it's totally
never.
meant to be made. To
Absolutely.
eat. What type of restaurants do you not, do takeout from or call to the house? What are restaurants that it's actually, because they've done a study and said they actually give you less when they send it home to you. You pay for it. Which?
Well, I'm the takeout queen, so.
So there's nothing
we
you
work
don't call
it
to the
out.
house.
I like to go to the buffet and get it to go though.
What I'm saying, what food changes in its quality, like how it tastes to you if you prefer to eat it in person versus if you were to call like Lyft or Uber?
Tacos.
I mean, not Lyft, DoorDash, sorry.
Tacos, because the tortilla, it's
it
hard
does.
to reheat
Yeah.
tacos. Sometimes a salad, if the dressing's already on it, it's just
True.
It gets soggy.
Fries can become stale.
Oh, unless you throw it in the air fryer.
This is what
There are things you got to eat right away.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Okay, cool. For me, comfort food would be around. I like a chowder, but like a seafood chowder. With nice just some cod, some salmon, and just like, tomatoes, vegetables.
You might do good in Sinaloa.
Sinaloa.
Where I'm from in Mexico.
Sinaloa. Look
Yes.
at me. I got a little.
She
I
said
can
you
make
in
it.
Mexico.
I might be.
You would do good there because they make it's along the ocean, so they do exactly. The ceviche has all those vegetables in it, and it's cooked with lime, but it's shrimp. You can have shrimp?
I don't eat shrimp, but it's
Don't even
delicious.
eat shrimp.
I don't eat it.
But they make really
Fresh
delicious
seafood.
seafood like soups. And I don't like seafood soups, but out there I do.
Well, and I did love the food in Spain. When I went to Mallorca,
Mm.
that food was amazing. I mean, they have a lot of stuff that was from the water, and it was good. Just quality seafood.
Mhm.
So I value that because we're from the Pacific Northwest. That's how it is. So today, we don't want to waste any more time because then we just be fulfilling the stereotype of what we're talking about today. We don't want to waste your time online with addictive content that's non-addictive or it's non-educational. But we're talking about what do you do when you're managing digital overload. There's so much information that comes at us. You get a vast array of different types of things pulling on you, and people want you to. We had a talk earlier in one of our staff team meetings about how there's all these people want you to weigh in on global events and global, tragedies and and there's so much. Let's talk about that. What do you do when you're digitally overloaded with information? Whoever feels that, how do you feel? And let's explore that a little bit. And what should business owners do to really keep them focused? Because first you're an individual before you're in a business. The first business is the business of you, right? And the commerce that you're doing internally in your thought life and how you affect others. So
I think it's good to just have a regimen, period. What do you need to do to successfully start your day? If that's capture 40 minutes of the news, to be aware of the latest headlines and the weather, to set you up, then that's something that you should learn about yourself. I think whatever, if you need to meditate, you need to stretch, you need to get your water, your vitamins in, make sure you allocate time to handle all the business before you jump into the pit of the unknown on social media that can get you caught up. And time flies when you just absorbing content nonstop. So
you?
I put a time limit on my phone. Do I always respect it? No, because I always click that little button that 1 more minute or 15 more minutes. But I think that doing that made me super conscious of how often I click that button. Because before that, I would just look at like the summary for the week. You know how with iPhones it gives you the summary of the week. But after seeing some of my summaries, I was like, absolutely not. I got to change this up. So setting a time limit so that you know how much you're actually doom scrolling. Another thing is that there is a local entrepreneur, Keisha Credit, who gave this wonderful talk at a conference last year, and she talked about like the power of social media, how she basically, her number one principle when she opened up the workshop was, if you are scrolling and you are not gathering information on how to use social media to build your business, get off of it. Like, if you are not using it to, so if you're not actively sitting there scrolling and taking notes on how you're going to create social media content, get off of it, because you're using it the wrong way. And then I also just recently I rewatched some of the Social Dilemma on Netflix, and it just talks about how the business in itself is to feed you these rabbit holes. And so that is what it's doing. And I feel like that's one of the first steps, to understand what social media is created to do. And if you understand that is how you're spending your time, if you're giving your energy for something to take you down rabbit holes, for me, when I know better, I do better. So just realizing that that is what I am giving my energy to. Let me put a little time limit. Let me get off. If I'm not using it for research, to build up, to build up our social media marketing and whatnot, I'm good. I gotta get off.
These are very transparent answers. So, sometimes I heard Denzel Washington say a quote where he was saying, the problem with the news is you watch it to be informed. And he said, but you wind up misinformed. And I said,
okay.
Oh, I know. I said, it's a viral clip too because it made so. He said, that's the problem. He said, because it's all about getting the attention. So they will run anything to get the attention. So we're watching it to be informed, but end up misinformed because the motive wasn't to really inform you. The motive was to capture your attention for the monetization of, ad dollars and all that, right? It's like, hey, we got this many people watching during this time. The kind of old school, as they call it, legacy media play. So there's a verse that really hit me before we started. I'll read it to my team. It says, I think it's Proverbs 27:20. It says, Sheol, which is the place of, or, one version says death, just as death and destruction are never satisfied, neither are human eyes.
Oh.
So I'll read it again. Just as death and destruction are never satisfied, or in the original version, it's like Sheol, the place of departed souls, and Abaddon, like a prison for departed spirits, are never satisfied, and so are the eyes of human eyes. So neither are human eyes. Human eyes are never satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, eyes are made for looking. I mean, as long as there's something to see.
Eyes will look.
What makes me
Curiosity.
think of the rabbit hole that my social media takes me down, and it's always those videos of people creating things,
Yes.
whether they're taking like bookshelves and recreating them. Like yesterday, what was it? This woman, man, I've been trying to use my sewing machine, but it was like a 2-minute video of her just talking about how she made an outfit for her and her daughter. I sat there like, how did this woman just engage me for 2 minutes straight?
Yes.
What? I need to dissect that. But I'm never satisfied because I'm like, I just watched that and she explained how she did it, but I haven't done it. I haven't grown. I haven't learned anything.
Yes.
What have I applied? It's
Yeah.
just a scroll. I watched a 2-minute video. I really just learned this woman engaged me, and I don't understand how for 2 minutes. And great, but I still don't know how to make a sweater.
So
I still don't know how to make a sweater.
But it's real. We all get caught up.
Yeah.
It's like, let me check something real quick, and then 40 minutes later, if you do not have set bound, this is why the first thing I do is I get up and try to have a conversation with the Father. And then I look at my phone for scripture. I go to the Bible app and I open it up and I just let a chapter play and read it. And then I try to refrain from going to email next, because email would be the addiction for me. It's not social media. It would be like what's going on in the world, who messaged me when I was, and it's a habit. It's a total habit. And when we prioritize setting apart that first part of our day so that our mind is clear and we can allow that creative energy, that like, oh man, I should write, I should journal right now. I have clear thoughts right now. I should journal. Why don't I? Or you know what? I find that I love to speak because I may not be as keen to write. Why don't I, hey, one of our illustrious coaches, shout out to Chris, we'll call you afterwards. But why don't I create a voice memo of what's on my mind, so I have this stream of consciousness and I document it, because it might be the most purest thoughts in the sense of this is something that you're going to create some problem. It's a solution, because if you go to bed thinking about a problem solution, your brain will naturally go to solve. So you actually have more clarity in those morning hours than you would at another time. There's a book that I've gotten into a bit. I'm definitely not all the way through it, but I wanted to highlight a little aspects of it. It's called Dopamine Nation, Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence. So I want to talk about this as well as a little bit of another book called Hooked by Nir Eyal. But there's let's talk a little bit about dopamine. It says, today more people are struggling with, this is an article, today that is talking about this book. Today more people are struggling with addictions, not just like substances, drugs, alcohol, but activities like gaming, social media, sex, and overeating. This book explains the neurological and biological processes behind addictive behaviors and conditions, especially the role of the neurotransmitter dopamine, using a mix of scientific research. So here is it. Pleasure, pain, and addiction. Understand how overconsumption and addiction is linked to the brain's reward system. And number 2 is like restoring healthy balance, learning how to break addiction, enjoy indulgences in moderation, and restore balance to our lives. So, like anything, it's always eat the meat, spell out the bones. There might be things you see in this book that you don't agree with, but I was fascinated by the fact that they were connecting. Dopamine is one of the many neurotransmitters. When it's released in certain parts of the brain, it can create pleasurable feelings, making it one of the most important neurotransmitters for rewards and motivation. Dopamine is often used to measure addictive potential of a drug or behavior. The more and faster something triggers dopamine release into the reward system, the more addictive it is. The pleasure-pain balance. Pleasure and pain are processed in the same part of the brain, and they balance each other. This is the pleasure-pain balance. Homeostasis refers to living things' tendency to, remember this back in science. Homeostasis refers to living things' tendency to maintain a physiological equilibrium. So it's the idea of quote unquote balance, right? The brain also has self-regulating mechanisms like a scale that balances pain and pleasure. When dopamine is released, it tips the scale to the side of pleasure and we feel good. But when we experience too much pleasure, homeostasis sets in and the brain creates pain to balance the scale. It doesn't stop there, but continues until the pain level is equal and opposite to the initial pleasure. This is the opponent process theory. What goes up must come down. And extreme pleasure leads to after effects of extreme pain. That's why we saw the rise in people being depressed with the overconsumption. You know, this generation that's on it all the time. People suicidal or people having eating disorders and things of this nature because of the constant, I must be on this. I must see what's going on. I must be connected to this. So I think that scripture that was pointing out, that's Solomon writing about how, you know, just as death and destruction are never satisfied, so are the eyes of people, is that you will keep going after more and more. And if you don't regulate yourself, if you don't set parameters and you don't set boundaries for yourself, you can find yourself in this pleasure and then extreme pain paradox. What do you guys think about that?
That's heavy. Yeah, I sometimes, let my phone die.
It's good.
As an indicator, it's time to put the phone down, you know, because you do find more leads when you're looking specifically, like doing research, say, you know, and then understanding how the phone is targeting you and sending sponsored ads. And, you know, it makes me want to go to people's website and see what classes or events that they have going on. And then it makes me want to research somebody else and how they do things so I can, you know, bring that info back to the team. But yeah, I let my phone die often, you know, and I keep my ringer off often so that I'm not distracted by notifications. And
consistently.
Yeah, it's nonstop, really.
Yeah.
How do you regulate?
You know, something that I need to start doing again that I was doing was putting my phone to charge in the kitchen at night so that I would, wake up naturally at the time that my body's ready to wake up. Because if you wake up, you can look at the time. Like, I do this all the time. Oh my God, it's 6 a.m. Like, I'm just go back to sleep. No. My body's ready to get up for a reason. I need to get up. And I was actually getting up just naturally. Like, I would wake up and then just lay there for a little bit. And that was a huge change because I always grab my phone and I'm looking at my notifications immediately. Like, who's texted me, who's called me, what email came in. I'm like ready to be stimulated. So that really helped, putting my phone in a whole different room. And they even say that when you're trying to get focused or something, just putting your phone in a different place. So that's a tactic I've used.
That's a game changer. I did that early on, and sometimes I do that because it's just I don't want, or sometimes I just cut it off and let my body clock wake me up. I'm saying I want to feel naturally of that. I set in my heart to wake up at this time, and then a lot of times I'll beat the time that I set to, because your body naturally knows you're actually
you
more
send
in
that
tune
signal
and alignment with, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. So there's another book I don't have in front of me, but I read this book many years ago. I use it as a reference, called Hook by Nir Eyal, Nireyals. And we'll have some videos that go a little bit more into these, so that you can use it as a resource and figure out, and hopefully read the book, but use it as a resource, because we want our entrepreneurs to be more aware and cognizant of what's happening internally with you to cause for your external reality. You can be hindering, you might have bottlenecks, constraints, you might find yourself bombarded with distraction, you might feel over anxious, and you're thinking, where is this coming from? Well, let's look at what we're consuming, because whatever we can consume, right? Okay, the old school, they used to say garbage in, garbage out, right? So we're taking in a lot of garbage. So one of the things he talks about is a hook model. So building habit-forming products. He worked at companies that would build habit-forming products. In other words, addictive products that we're talking about in dopamine.
Right, like why did they just change the name like that? Like they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, habit-forming, right? So he talks about it's multiple steps. The first is a trigger. A trigger is the activator of the behavior, the spark plug in the engine. External and internal triggers. External trigger examples are email, website link, post on social media, app icon on a phone. Triggers are a call to action. Users associate the external trigger with the internal emotion. So example, a photo on social media, an external trigger, triggers an emotion such as the need for social connection, an internal trigger. Make sense? Then there's action. Following the trigger comes the action, the behavior done in anticipation of the reward. Trigger creates an action. Action relies on two basic drivers of human behavior: ease of performing an action and the psychological motivation to do so. Example, by clicking on the photo, the user is brought to something of interest. Nir Eyal talks about a user landing on Pinterest, right? And then the last is the variable reward. Variable rewards are one of the most powerful tools companies implement to hook users. Dopamine surges when the brain is expecting an award. Variability creates a focused state which suppresses the part of the brain associated with judgment and reason, activates a part of the brain associated with wanting and desire. Example, the variable reward in this case is a slew of photos in the area that the user is interested in, right? So Pinterest internal trigger is aspiration, right? So you watch it and you see people say, oh, I want my garage to look like this. They go on there and they get ideas, and it's, oh, let's pulling them into this, that it's intent. So people are pinning with intent, and the intentionality of it is an internal trigger of, I want that, right? Instagram's internal trigger is that when you want to see beauty, you go to Instagram because all the filters are there. YouTube's is boredom. So when we're bored, hopefully you're bored watching this video right now. Wink, wink. When you're bored, hopefully you're watching this video and subscribing and doing all that stuff, right? But that is, and then Facebook is lonely. When you're lonely, you're trying to figure out what's social connection. LinkedIn is professional leveling up, right? Like, how can I take my career to the next level? These are internal triggers. And then Twitter would be when you want to know what's going on in the world, right? In short form. So each one of these. Uncensored. Oh, well, they're Xing it out, all right? I don't know what this is. I still haven't caught up yet. And then last is the investment. The investment phase increases the odds that the user will make another pass through the hook cycle in the future. Users do a bit of work, in doing so invest in the product. Users can invest time, data, effort, social capital, or money. These actions can be used to make the next trigger more engaging, the action easier, and the reward more exciting. Example, the user may begin to collect their own Pinterest boards, making them invested in the product. Once invested, they're more inclined to go back, right? We can just throw in a hook through the loop. Once the user goes through the loop a few times, they're hooked, and your product has just become a habit-forming one. So this is how we get it's for others, you know, it talked about that, but for YouTube it could be what the like button, right? Or you see how when people comment and people can rate your comment up, so you say you getting all these notifications, which is hitting activating the dopamine of like, and you see people sometimes in the comments they'll say, I haven't looked at this and man, thank you guys for showing me love. It's like voted up by like 4,000 people that their comment is now raised as the top comment. So there's a dopamine, action, reward, investment, all this, right? Internal turn. So it's the loop. Here's the point. We're encouraging you as entrepreneurs to at least know what's happening in you and know that this is not by accidental, that there are people, there's a whole business, there's a whole industry built around capturing your attention. Your attention is currency, and you could be limiting your own currency by giving away your best and brightest, most productive hours constantly by just consuming rather than consuming and producing. Become a producer so that you can consume. Produce. What are we uploading into this digital economy versus always downloading and pulling down? What are you adding into the economy? Because there are 2 billion people that have been brought online in the last few years, and the number one thing they're searching for is information. So that's your business. How is your business put at the forefront? How is your business brought to the top of their mind that they're looking for your solution and they find you and they're moving that currency and now they're a part of your. So what are you building as your digital presence online? Or is it just being given away to the best hours of scrolling? And oh my gosh, because we didn't even get into the other side of it, which is with all the tragedies that happen in the world and the things that are going on, we don't have the capacity to carry all that. None of us are designed to have the capacity to know about everything at all times that's going on in all nations and all cities. You're doing yourself much disservice. When we were on and no disrespect if you guys watched this at some point, but some of my family on both sides who are of the older side, we were traveling from one place to another and they were sending us all these things about, hey, watch out, there's a storm coming over through there. There's a storm coming over there. And the plane that we took was great. The weather was fine, but they all have been watching the Weather Channel. And so we were laughing, saying on the group text, I'm like, all the older family, why y'all all watching the Weather Channel? You know about all the horrible weather in places that you don't know anybody in, that you've never been to, and over in Kansas City, they got over there in North Dakota, and you say, who you know in North Dakota? Why are you sitting all day worrying about all the things? So be aware of what you give your attention to, because whatever you give your attention to, its spirit comes to live inside of you. As the business owner, we want you to prosper. We want you to connect to a cohort of like-minded individuals. We're currently running our business accelerator, of which it is really powerful information that is useful for people to continue to expand. We have other upcoming offerings and programs. We want you to be aware of them. Stay tuned. If you have questions, if you have prayer requests, if you have desires of how you want to take your business to the next level, we are the place to come to, especially if you're in the Pacific Northwest. This is targeted towards those primarily in the Pacific Northwest. But hey, maybe we'll shout you out if you're coming from a different country. That may be cool. Let us know. Any other closing things, people, as we're closing out this amazing episode?
Yeah, just embrace technology at your own pace. It's not something that you should ignore. It is going to be beneficial. But yeah, you have to find what works for you. Myself personally, I haven't been on Twitter or X in several years just because I had to make that choice for my own life. I don't really care what other people have to say, because it can consume you. I converted more towards like Instagram because I'm a visual person, and if I can learn something, great. But as far as just consuming my mind with what other people have to say about other people's business, that just didn't work for me. It wasn't beneficial to my life. So just understand what is going to help you make forward progress and what isn't.
That's good. Michelle?
Yeah, I agree with what Mara's saying. I feel like you have one thing that I've been reflecting on these last couple months is the power of choice. And we make choices all day, every day. And especially as I'm getting older, I realize that I really am in a position to make whatever choice I want for myself. When you're a child, your parents make a lot of decisions and choices for you, But the older you get, it's really about you. You get to decide how you spend your day and what you put your energy into. And so really just understand that if you are scrolling or, you know, like Mara says, if you're on a social media platform, or even if you're following some sort of you know, whatever, maybe something comes across your timeline, like you can decide, like, hey, don't show me stuff like this anymore. Like there's choices you can make to customize your experience. So really do use that. The other thing that I was going to say, sometimes using these platforms can be overwhelming because it's like there's so many of them.
Yes.
There's always features growing. Here's my encouragement to you. I have a lot of little ones in my family. If I don't know how to use something, I go to them, because somehow when you're little, you figure out how to use anything and everything. And so when I needed to learn how to use TikTok, I went to my little sister. She taught me everything I know about TikTok. My two younger sisters. I recently downloaded this app called Laps, which basically you take photos like if you had a Polaroid camera, and it develops the photo. Long story short, I didn't know how to use it. I told my sister, hey, you should use this app. I just followed how she was using it. Next thing you know, I know how to use the app. And I'm using it on my own. But, you know, you turn to the little ones.
Young
The
people
little
are
ones.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Young
They usually
people.
know how to use your phone better than you.
Come on.
So,
This
embrace
is true.
it.
But yeah.
Upskill. You utilize that which is around you. I love it. Thank you guys for this episode. We look forward to more engagement. Share with us, how do you deal with digital overload? Put it in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Put a comment in there. Let us know what you're struggling with when it comes to managing your attention, or what you give your attention to. What about your morning routine? Do you have a morning routine you'd like to share with us? What about other books that you found were useful with helping you to get on top of, you know, staying on top of not being distracted and being focused, how to get into some deep work, right? This is good stuff. So we look forward to seeing you next time. Same place, same channel. Be back. Shalom.